India will be at the forefront of efforts to mass manufacture the Oxford vaccine, which is in the process of trial right now. In fact, within the next couple of months, the Serum Institute of India will have manufactured 100 million plus doses of the drug, which has shown a great deal of promise in trials taking place presently in the United Kingdom. It's a gamble taken by the Serum Research Institute. There is still no 100% guarantee that the vaccine is the magic bullet that the world is looking for. But yes, there's a great deal of hope. Joining us now, Aadar Poonawalla, the CEO of the Serum Institute of India. Thanks very much, Aadar, for joining us. A lot of people have a lot of basic questions. Let's start with the first one. How soon will Covishield, which is what you're calling it, how soon will Covishield be ready?
Well, in the next 48 hours, we are submitting our proposal for the DCGI, the Drug Controller of India, to look at granting a phase 2/3 trial to us based on the data coming in from Oxford, which is, as you know, very positive. The large safety study in 1,000 patients has been done. 500 were vaccinated, 500 were the placebo. Compared to the other candidates, it's a very large study. CanSino, Moderna, all of them, they've done 40 to 60 patient trials for the phase 1. So we're confident on getting on with the phase 3 trials in India in August. And we forecast that'll probably take 2.5 months to complete, followed by another few more weeks of review. And by November, we hope to launch the vaccine if the trials are positive and if the Drug Controller of India blesses it and says it is safe and efficacious.
And
so
by November, how many doses of Covishield would you have manufactured, irrespective of which way the trials eventually go?
So as you rightly mentioned, we're planning to make upwards of 100 million doses, probably around 200 to 250 million doses by December, because we have invested more than $200 million in CapEx and OpEx for the raw materials and equipments and other things already to gear up to do this. So we've bet in a very big way and committed to this. And it is a very big risk, as you've pointed out rightly. So we hope that this candidate works. Of course, we've got 5 other candidates, Codagenix, Novavax, all those companies as well. So I think every 3 or 4 months, the Serum Institute hopes to enter into a phase 3 study with a new and different COVID-19 vaccine candidate. But we right now have the highest hopes for the AstraZeneca Oxford product because of what it's demonstrated so far.
But are there 100, 200 million doses of this? There's a cost in manufacture of that. There's a cost in stepping up your manufacturing capabilities. And if the trial isn't successful, you would need to destroy that stock. Is that right?
That's correct. So it would be a write-off of upward of $200 million, which, wasn't a very easy decision to make. But my father and I and the board of Serum Institute decided that this is something we should commit, for the world and for India, that we need to take this risk. Otherwise, come December, we'll have no doses and another 5 or 6 months would be wasted before Indians would get access to the vaccine. So we didn't want to do that and wait that long. So that's why we've decided to take this risk and jump in.
And would the entire stock, which is being produced first, assuming that the trials end up all successful, would that be entirely for the Indian market?
Well, I think to be fair, we have committed and at least made a statement which the government of India supports at the moment, which could change, I don't know, that 50% of the volumes would come to India, 50% to the rest of the world, because, every life is important. And even more than that, even if we looked at it as a patriotic duty that we have to protect our country first, the health experts and the economists have made it very clear that unless the whole globe is vaccinated and the vulnerable populations are not protected, the fear factor will not allow factories and businesses to open elsewhere, which means India, which is dependent on imports and exports, would also be affected if other countries are not able to get over the crisis. We can't just look at India as a country and, because of globalization, you've got this dependency on countries for trade, raw materials and exports. So you look at that, you look at us traveling to those countries and vice versa. So unless we have a global view to protect everybody and not do what America is doing, which is US and America first, and now they're slowly changing their thinking also to be more inclusive, to play a more global strategy rather than just a America strategy. We also have decided to do that and work with the government to ensure that we protect everyone equally.
Right. But are you legally bound by AstraZeneca to actually share what you manufacture in India outside the country from the very onset? Or is this just exclusively on the basis of the belief that you share?
That's a very good question. We have an exclusive license to supply in the Gavi countries, which is about 60, 70 odd countries, and India. We're looking at other territories also, but there is no sort of compulsion for us to contractually give them anything. It's our choice, and they've left it to us to fairly, equitably, distribute that. It's only if the Indian government tomorrow uses and invokes some emergency rule, then we might be compelled to supply, everything only to India. But right now, even the leaders in our country have understood and appreciated that. So, as long as everyone gets a vaccine over the next 2 years, I think that's a very fair, realistic way of, dealing with the whole crisis.
Why do you say 2 years? Because in your understanding, and obviously since you're associated with the process itself, how soon before we know that this is the real deal, right? If it is successful, when will it be successful? If it's not successful, when will we know that?
Correct. So by October, November, we will know for sure if it's successful or not. And the only thing that happens after that is I either go into a loss with the product that I've made and go on to the next candidate, or we continue scaling up the AstraZeneca Oxford product.
So why did you say 2 years in terms of...
I'll explain.
Yeah.
Because let's say we have, say, 200-300 million doses by the end of this year.
Right.
So that will roll out in the first quarter of 2021 to everybody. And let's say we produce another 60 to 70 million doses every month from December onwards. You're still in a situation where you're giving 30 to 40 million doses to India and the rest to the rest of the world. Given India's population and size, if there is no other vaccine candidate that comes about by then, it's going to take 2 years for everybody in India to be able to take that vaccine. Also, don't forget the logistics, the cold chain management, getting people from villages to the cities, or getting your machinery, the government machinery to vaccinate everyone, getting over the anti-vaxxers and the fear mongers, people, you have in certain religious sects also not wanting to take vaccines, as we've seen before. So all those challenges, minimum would mean that India will take 2 years for everybody to get the vaccine, assuming that it's ready in December. Even if we assume that a lot of other good companies in India are developing their vaccine candidates, which will be licensed early in 2021. Even for them to roll out their vaccines is going to take, to cover the whole population of India, at least 2 years. And look, if anyone says that they can do it before that, I just think that's just, wishful thinking.
That's a very, very major statement, Aadhar, that irrespective of how fast you produce this vaccine, assuming this is the vaccine that is the magic bullet, it'll take 2 full years before everybody in India gets it. And when we talk about who gets it, will it be people with comorbidities first, healthcare workers first? What about children? Would they be vaccinated as well?
So we'll have to ensure and work with the government to give the most vulnerable groups first. The elderly, immunocompromised, our heroes, healthcare workers on the front lines, and yes, maybe a few children also, if they deem fit. But again, that decision will be made by the health experts in India, not by us, because I don't want to, make a decision without all the information and facts. I think that decision is better made by the epidemiologists and the health experts and the health ministry in India. But I imagine that's the way in which they're going to go, and you can check with them what's going to happen. But look, I know that there's this political race where every state and every country wants to announce that a vaccine is going to come and save the day, and that's how they're going to win elections. But I really don't think that's the right way of looking at it, because A, it's not going to happen. So when it doesn't happen, you look stupid and foolish and unrealistic. And look, to be honest, it's not the solution because we don't know how effective these vaccines are going to be. So is it really going to protect you and save the day? Only time will tell. Even a trial can't tell you that for certain, for sure. It'll definitely tell you that it's working, but how well it's working, how many people it'll protect, maybe 2 or 3 out of 10 people who get the vaccine will still have a chance of getting the disease. If you look at all other vaccines, normally they're 70 to 80% effective. So
Right.
maybe 2 out of 10 people can still get the disease. So
We'll
these
come
are
back
the
to this
things
point that you're
we
talking
live
about.
with and, make peace with.
We'll come back to this very critical point, but I want to go to the next question which we've been asked. What will Covishield cost?
So we said initially about 1,000 rupees, but we can certainly bring that down as the volumes pick up. And we said 1,000 rupees because we looked at how much a test costs, 2,500 rupees. The treatment, remdesivir and other drugs, tens of thousands of rupees. So something that's going to protect you even with 2 doses, so we look at 2,000 rupees, is a very affordable and reasonable price. Having said that, it's going to be substantially cheaper as time goes on in the next few months. And it's still too soon to, come onto the exact pricing figure. But having said that, no citizen of India or most of these countries are ever going to have to pay for it because the governments of those countries are going to buy it and distribute it free as a national security and a national necessity to their citizens of their countries.
Yeah.
So I don't think people and the citizens need to worry about how much it will cost and the treatment, etc.
Sure. Adar, going back to the point you were mentioning, because people have been asking about this as well, will one dose have a lifelong impact? Because the study from Oxford said that there is a possibility of a booster dose being required as well. But even with a booster dose, will it last a lifetime?
So right now, no one can answer that question. Just to give you a little background, most vaccines are 2 to 3 dose vaccines. Pneumonia vaccine, rotavirus vaccine, pentavalent vaccine, they're 2 to 3 doses because the first one primes you and the second one really boosts your immune system to give you that higher level and long-term level of protection. So I imagine most of the COVID vaccines also are going to be 2 dose vaccines.
Yeah.
And we need to psychologically prepare for that as well. That would be my prediction if I were to be.
Sure. And what happens if the Oxford trial vaccine fails? I've understood that the losses that you would incur, and those are huge losses, but you've gone into this with this incredible spirit of entrepreneurship at one level and of being somebody who really cares and wants to help millions around the world. But if the Oxford trial vaccine fails, then in terms of the fight for a vaccine, where would we stand?
Well, you've got other Indian companies developing it. You've got US, Chinese companies. We've got our own candidate. We've got other partnerships. So there are a lot of irons in the fire right now. And as every 3-4 months pass, we're going to see data coming out from all of these candidates. And so, I don't think it's going to be a total disaster and a loss for the world, but certainly it would be a loss for India and the world if the AstraZeneca product didn't work because, that it is one of the front runners and in the first wave of vaccines that are coming, like Moderna and Novavax and those chaps. So we will have lost some time, but this is not the end of the world and the end of the COVID vaccine story if one of the candidates fails, because that's, welcome to my world of making vaccines and, not everything every time works. So
Sure.
That's where we stand.
Adar, thank you so much. But before I let you go, I'm just amazed by what would have happened in the board of your company when you or perhaps someone else said that we're just going to put several $100 million and if it goes, it goes. I mean, how did that decision work? I mean, were there people who said that you must be out of your mind, you need to do something more careful? It's a company at the end of the day, resources are finite.
Well, in our company, being a privately listed company, we're all very much aligned on a lot of things that we do. So it was actually almost a general consensus. Of course, my father and I had to sign off on it because it's a huge financial decision. But I think we were all so committed to the cause and we all felt this sense of responsibility that if we don't do it, and we don't lead this commitment to fight the disease, then how can we expect others to? And we just thought of it as a moral responsibility that we have to, take this commitment. And it was a 30-minute decision, I think, or less than that, where we came to a unanimous conclusion that we have to just go ahead.
All right, Aadar Poonawalla, congratulations in this massive effort, and let's hope for everyone's sake that this does work out. The Oxford trial has been very successful so far, and hopefully we'll have the pace that we need to churn out these doses for India and around the world. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. Thank you.